to which the infrastructure has been damaged, that if we say a certain level of rainfall is a trigger, then those funds will then be released, and then they will help us to start with the process of a response while we do the verification to know the extent of the damage, so that we can bring more funds that are now coming from the grants, the contingency reserve, or even the insured assets.
The National Treasury says it found that during its pilot project on climate budget tagging, knowledge gaps were identified as one of the challenges to achieving the country's climate goals. Climate budget tagging is a tool used to track how much money is being allocated to climate priorities. The Treasury highlighted the need to standardize climate-related terms across government. It says cities with more capacity have been more proactive in working towards the country's climate objectives. The Treasury says it has already taken steps to simplify the process to enhance its effectiveness.
We are able to publish as a government to say this is how much the government of South Africa is spending on climate, and this is what we consider to be a priority to us. Currently, we are not able to give those numbers, and without the climate budget tagging methodology, it's very difficult to get to that number. And multiple departments are implementing it. So where do you go and say this is how much? You need to have a way that you consolidate the information and you are able to share it in a uniform and standardized manner.
One of the cities involved in the pilot project is the city of Tshwane. Officials have welcomed the experience, saying they've gained a lot despite the initial slow start.
The city has done a lot of groundwork and baseline work, so the climate budget tagging pilot came at the right time to sort of solidify the process that the city had undertaken. So we are able now to find expression in terms of what do we need to do in order to then reflect that expenditure that relates to the climate budgeting and climate change investment that the city is making. So we found the pilot to be assisting us to then elevate those elements from the budget process.
The National Treasury says building capacity will be crucial for the country's climate goals. I'm Nomtsigalelo Mtabela, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And that is it from our side. Update at noon will be coming to you live and direct from Cape Town, from Parliament tomorrow. Goodbye.
Top stories at 1 o'clock. Zuma's ANC disciplinary hearing underway and more reaction to Trutter's release on parole. A very good afternoon. The ANC has confirmed that the disciplinary hearing against former President Jacob Zuma is going ahead on a virtual platform. The hearing began at 10 this morning and has not been opened to the media. Zuma was suspended from the ANC earlier this year after he confirmed that he would no longer campaign for the party. Instead, he endorsed the newly formed MK party. Sibahle Mota reports.
The ANC has released a statement that the disciplinary hearing by the party's National Disciplinary Committee against former ANC President Jacob Zuma continues as planned. Spokesperson Zuko Godlimpi says that a verdict against Zuma will be announced once the committee has received and reviewed all representations. He adds that the ANC cannot specify the timeline for the disciplinary process. Zuma, who was suspended from the ANC in January, has been charged under Rule 25 of the ANC Constitution, which states that party members cannot endorse other political parties. I am Sibahle Mota in Johannesburg.
The Trade and Industry Department says to grow the country's economy, it will focus on re-industrialization and growing the export market. It says it also needs to work on improving the implementation of policies that have worked in the past. This is to identify opportunities to streamline incentives into sectors that are going to convert into jobs. Yesterday, Minister Pakstawu announced that they will be placing industrial policy at the center of the economic growth strategy. He was tabling his maiden budget vote in Parliament. His deputy, Andrew Whitfield.
But also to help small and medium-sized manufacturing enterprises to generate wealth, to become sustainable entities in our economy, and to create jobs well into the future. And so manufacturing-led growth is a key component of the industrial policy-led economic growth strategy, with a focus on driving an export-oriented economy, which is absolutely critical. Our local market simply doesn't have the demand required. We need to explore our existing trade relationships, but also build new export markets in the global economy.
Some victims of the now-defunct VBS Mutual Bank have cautiously welcomed the release on parole of the bank's former CFO, Philip Truta. He was released on parole in April after serving the minimum requirement for his 7-year jail term. This after he pleaded guilty to charges related to the VBS scandal in 2020. Former chairperson Tsifiwa Matotsi was also sentenced after a plea agreement. The family of Ronald Mani, who was allegedly assassinated in 2019 for leading protests against municipalities investing in the bank, says it hopes that the pair's plea agreements will shed some light into Mani's killing. Family spokesperson Lucky Mani.
I don't know what was the deal between him and the NPA, and if that deal was for the NPA to get the information that they got, could be maybe to the advantage of the justice system so that we can get the closure on this one.
Meanwhile, VBS minority shareholder Robert Levoy says he's hopeful that the plea agreements will lead to depositors and all minority shareholders recovering their funds.
From the first time when I worked as a teacher in 1987, I did a stop order that was deducting to VBS as a means of saving money. My house, the one that I'm staying in, I built it from VBS. That was very easy for me to get a loan because I had a good relation with VBS. I get a loan, a bond with VBS, and I built my house from VBS. And that's why I say the collapse of the bank, it's heartbreaking.
And the medical aid charity Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, has appealed to other charities to return to Sudan to help meet the overwhelming needs of its citizens. Millions of Sudanese are in desperate need after 15 months of war. The Sudanese army has been fighting with the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. MSF President Dr. Christos Christous spoke to the warring parties to try to secure greater access.
When we see the devastating numbers in Sudan, when we see the amount of people being displaced, all those people that they are severely malnourished, and what is ahead of us is serious food insecurity, we believe that Sudan this moment has become the biggest humanitarian crisis. And the challenges we face are also related to how the warring parties do.
The top story at 1, the ANC has confirmed that the disciplinary hearing against former President Jacob Zuma is going ahead on a virtual platform. The Full Circle is up next. For SAFM News, Kimudupi Makhalemeli.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Nick is hiding a dark secret. For 20 years, everything has been going according to plan. Until now. He has the perfect wife, Maya, a smart, ambitious defense lawyer who is on the verge of becoming the first black director of public prosecutions. Amidst the biggest case of her career and having her life under intense scrutiny, Maya learns of Nick's dark secret and how she was one of Nick's targets 20 years ago. The veil of secrecy will fall. Nothing stays hidden forever. Betrayal, secrets, suspense. Oh, the drama. This is Undercover, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
ngathi hayi ngiyakuthanda ngiyazi ukuthi sithanda ngathembisa ngathi hayi ngeke ngize ngiphinde ungazulahleke ungabonanga ngigqokile ngiyazi ngikumoshile ngiyazi intela usukole ngikumoshile ngiyazi ngigqokile ngiyazi ngeke ngize ngiphinde
It is Giselle Brothers coming through with Ngege Ngipinde. That is how we kick off the show this afternoon, bringing us to 10 past 1 o'clock on this fine Wednesday. We're halfway through the month of July as we gallop our way through what's left of the second half of the year. I don't know if time just moves faster the older one gets, and maybe we're so consumed with all the problems of the day that time just speeds on by, because it's from one drama to the next drama to the next drama. Whereas if we sort of cast our eyes back into our youth, it always seemed as though the years dragged on. The days were endless and the waits in between the holidays were expansive. But now it's just blink and it's the Monday again. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. We've got a lot of show planned for you today. Remember that conversation I teased yesterday about looking at how colonialism has in some ways, in some parts, bastardized ancient African customs, and looking at, of course, customs like lobola, for instance, and things of that nature. Well, we're having that conversation today. And then we're also going to be catching up with a philanthropist and the creator of the robotical clan, Lerato Modise, who is a Big Brother Mzansi contestant and now doing something equally as interesting with her career and opportunity. So we'll catch up with her in the first hour. We also are going to be in conversation with a South African creative today. And we're going to be talking to the founder of Pinda Designs for Made in SA. On the other side of 2 o'clock, it is Wednesday after all. So in our relationship corner, there's almost a television entertainment theme running through the show today. In our relationship corner after 2 o'clock, I don't know if you followed this show, Married at First Sight, where virtual strangers get married without ever meeting each other, without ever speaking on the phone. They have no clue, no idea as to what the other looks like, sounds like, what their interests and strengths and weaknesses and all those things that you should ordinarily know when you marry somebody. They know none of that, We are going to be catching up with a couple from the South African version of that particular show today. And we're going to delve into it's interesting, the concept for me, right? It's interesting. Imagine just marrying somebody you don't know from a bar of blue soap, as my grandmother used to say. That is coming up on the other side of 2 o'clock. And I'll tell you what else is coming up after 2, closer to the time. 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line, in 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on if you want to be in conversation with us. What are your thoughts? Do you, by the way, think that, colonialism and our sort of lean more into the Western ways of life and Western modernity has somehow eroded and bastardized our ancient customs and rituals as Africans? Or do you think perhaps with time and the evolution of man and people that things change accordingly, and that maybe we start interrogating some of the things that our forefathers used to do under the banner of rituals and customs with a finer lens to see whether or not they make sense to carry them into the present and into the future. It's always quite the interesting conversation, this, no matter which angle you sort of tackle it from. 061 410 4107. I'd love to know your thoughts on it, and 086 000 2032. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Dr. Sinethemba Makhanya, who's a traditional healer with a PhD in medical humanities and a lecturer in the Department of Family Medicine and Primary Care. And Dr. Sinethemba was in conversation with Wits Curiosity, which is the Varsity's online publication, around this topic of interrogating whether or not colonialism has, in some forms and ways, bastardized ancient African rituals, traditional rituals and practices, things such as lobola and initiation, are often very much misunderstood in democratic and Western societies and viewed through very much so the Western lens. But is that also just the product of people evolving and moving with the time and societies integrating? I have no idea. Dr. Sinethemba, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, Bridget. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for making the time. We much appreciate it. And I think perhaps that would be our entry point, right? The understanding that societies in some way do evolve, and perhaps cultures of the collective and customs, go through these periods of evolution. Do we are we in agreement at least on that? And then what does that evolution look like in the context of carrying certain customs and rituals forward?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you in terms of culture and dynamism. So just the natural progression and the natural order of life is the fact that cultures respond to contextual changes, and it changes with the times. But what I said, natural progression. So if we're looking at the history of South Africa, there's been many cultures that have been introduced into South Africa through migrant labor, et cetera, et cetera. So the term I would use for, I guess, a positive progression of culture would be something like creolization, which ultimately means that when we come into contact with changes, when we come into contact with different peoples, we take certain principles, they become assimilated into our cultures and bring parts of their cultures into our cultures. And then this is the natural change, this is the natural order. And in fact, our ancestors welcome this kind of progress, right?
I see. Yeah.
Then the important thing, though, is that the essence of the different customs, practices, traditions is kept. The understanding of why something is done, the knowledge, the philosophy underpinning cultures, traditions, and practices is important so that we know what to choose, what to chop and change, what to leave out, what to put in. But colonization did something slightly different. And I mean, depending on how pessimistic one is, we could speak about it in terms of epistemic injustice or epistemic violence, which means that they disrupted, oppressed certain parts of our knowledge, so that the knowledge that underpins our rituals and practices was cut off. Other people who are more pessimistic would call it epistemicide, which ultimately means the death of knowledge, where then colonization came in and said, our knowledge is greater than other knowledges, so let's do away with your knowledge and replace it with their knowledge. And ultimately, I think this is what we're speaking about when we're speaking about the bastardization, the erosion, to the point where some rituals that we do now look nothing like the rituals of old because we've lost that metaphysical knowledge of those rituals.
I see. So is it then the knowledge base that we seek to preserve, even if we understand that cultures respond to the natural progression of people? And of course, as you say, in colonization, that was not the case. So the knowledge base is what we ultimately seek to preserve.
Yes, definitely, the knowledge base. So I believe in what I call the African metaphysics, which is ultimately the philosophies underpinning a lot of the way that Africans carry out their cultures, traditions, and practices. And so people like Wilderson, people like Panashe Chugumadzi would speak about a metaphysical death, a social death, to speak about this epistemicide, that they took away our metaphysics, which ultimately connect the land, the people, the ecology, our ancestors, etc. And so our rituals are intimately tied with our metaphysics, are intimately tied with the knowledge that we also believe in, even though I don't like using the word spiritual, but I'll use it just to be legible, that also tie us to our spiritual elements, being our ancestors, being the divinities, etc. And so I would say that a big thing that colonization did is that they took away our land. And within African metaphysics, the land is intimately tied with our knowledge. And then, it goes to follow then that the rituals that we do, which are tied to our knowledge, which are tied to our land, are in many ways bastardized and eroded.
I got you. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line if you'd like to weigh in on the conversation with Dr. Sine Temba, or 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's go to WhatsApp as we jump off on this.
Hi, Bridget. With the opening, it just took me back to those years with those songs. I always look forward to the opening song. Anyway, here's my point. I think the history and the true history of our forefathers and ancestors is been revealed, and to my surprise, by the Gen Zs, I know that, when you follow these narratives on social media, you really have to follow it with a critical eye. But I think they did really, in a way, the colonizers modified the history of our forefathers and our ancestors. And this is what I'm also, with the work that I'm currently doing right now, that's what I'm also discovering, that there is so much in our history that was modified. And it's like, remember what Vlad did when he was revealing the Black Jesus. So one way or the other, I believe that our history was changed to favor the colonizers. This is Tepiso.
Good day, Sisi Bridget. You raised a very interesting topic over here about the marriage. You see, Sisi Bridget, I've always had this point in my head or notion about us, especially as an African nation. We are always the first ones. You will never see an Indian, or I'm sorry to say, I'm not a racist person, or a white person doing our own customs, and it will never be called traditional, So we as Africans, we have to act as well, because the white wedding is traditional for them, and our traditional wedding is traditional for us, and the traditional wedding is traditional for Indians and Muslims as well, and so on and so on. So we have to change the notion as well. Thank you.
There's no doubt. Absolutely, colonialism has distorted and disturbed our civilization. For an example, people, those who have anything negative to say about initiation schools, they reduce it to in circumcision. And there's a lot of socialization that happens there. So, in my culture, we do not do it, but I very much respect it as an African phenomenon. So I actually do take offense on behalf of the rest of Africans when foreigners, and by foreigners I mean non-Africans, they want to reduce the initiation into just the initiation, because it's at less than 10% of the whole of socialization that happens there. Zolethu speaks Mbombela.
As we get back to you, Dr. Sinatemba, and they've led us, I guess, to examples that you bring up in conversation with Wits Curiosity around Ilobola, for instance. And we heard Tepiso talking about how our history and our sense of being has been modified. And Lobola being one of the examples, and even this example of initiation, even the example, I guess, of just what wedding, the ritual of union of family looked like for us as Africans.
Yes, very insightful voice notes that have come in with very good points. So the idea of our history being rewritten, I could very much tie that to this idea of epistemicide, where our way of doing was oppressed for the Western way of doing. And there's a saying that speaks about how it's always the one in charge of the history that will write the history to suit them. So yes, I completely agree with that. There's so much that we don't know, even through our dreams and with our ancestors. I feel like we're just literally looking at the tip of the iceberg. In relation to what the gentleman was saying about even the term traditional, it's something that I say to medical students sometimes, is that why is it that when we speak about diseases in the way that biomedicine understands it, it's almost, this is disease. And then when we're speaking about, I guess, alternative understandings of disease, they'll say these are the cultural understandings of disease, as if biomedicine itself isn't a culture. But again, this goes with cultural hegemony, where everything else is culture, but the colonizer's way is the way of doing things. I appreciate what the gentleman was saying about initiation and other such rites of passage, like marriage rites, etc. So when I was speaking about African metaphysics, and I was saying that the philosophies that underpin the way that we do things, it's never wise to look at a single ritual or a single rite of passage in isolation. When a child is born, there's a certain rite of passage that they go through, imbeleko, which introduces them to their ancestors. And as they go through life for a girl child, in the Zulu culture, there's umhlonyana, there's umemulo, there's marriage rites, etc., etc., etc. And each of these rites were, I'm going to say designed for lack of a better word, were designed to intervene or were designed to work on the individual at different steps of their development. And so imagine now we're saying to a young woman who's never had imbeleko, who's never had imhlonyana, and all of a sudden we're doing lobola. Already that reasoning is bastardized without taking the whole person and the whole community into consideration.
I so wish we had more time for this conversation. So let me sneak in one more voice note, and perhaps you can respond to that before we go into the headline news.
Hi, Sawubona Bridget. I hope you well. I enjoy your show and your openings is laka. Look, Bridget, in that issue of Lobolo, even though he came up with the colonizers, but when I'm looking with my eye, we are stuck on it. Because now, even our ancestors now, they are the one, if you didn't lobolo the wife, they are the one who turn against you, saying that this wife is not belonging here because you never do anything such as lobolo and other cultural or traditional cultural. So on that one, we are stuck. There is no way we can reverse this thing. This is Nkosinathi Mbanja from Mkambating. I thank you, Bridget.
And I'm going to let you have the final bite, Dr. Sinatemba, in about 45 seconds as we wrap it up, because it speaks once again to the rites and the rites of passage and the connectivity to spirituality.
Yes, no, definitely. And the fact that, you know, certain things have become extracted, and so we actually are fascinated, or we get stuck, as the gentleman was saying, on one aspect of something. I completely agree. I wish we had more time, but definitely it looks like what needs to happen is to look at the philosophy, the metaphysics underpinning different rituals to understand why those rituals were introduced in the first place.
Absolutely. I get the feeling that we'll be calling on you sometime in the near future to explore these themes a little bit more. But for today, I appreciate the time with you. That was Dr. Sinatemba Makanya, who's a traditional healer with a PhD in medical humanities and a lecturer as well in the Department of Family Medicine and Primary Care. It's just gone 1:30. Madupi Makhalamele is standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, at 1:30, civil organizations are gearing up for a court case against the Gauteng Health Department over its alleged failure to utilize 784 million rand allocated for the provision of radiology oncology services. Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says the current environmental legislation and policies need to be modernized to deal with climate change. And the ANC has confirmed that the disciplinary hearing against former President Jacob Zuma is going ahead on a virtual platform. And those are your headlines. A full news update, 2 o'clock.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Lerato Mudise is joining me now in conversation. She is a writer, an author, producer, and of course a child activist, and also known for being a former Big Brother Mzansi contestant. And Lerato is right now, though, focused on her initiatives in as far as bridging the educational gap for children, particularly those in under-resourced communities. And she's joining us on the line to tell us more about bridging the gap through play and animation. How are you doing this afternoon?
Thank you. How are you, Bridget?
I'm great, thank you. Cannot complain. So life is interesting after the house, hey?
Life is very interesting after the house, and I'm actually happy to be talking to you. I'm going to remind you where I know you from.
Oh, okay. you remind me offline, because just now...
no, trust me, it has to be online.
Oh, okay. Remind me quickly then. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So time when I entered Miss South Africa, and you were a judge, and I remember saying to you, I've never worn a bikini in my life. And you're like, you look so sexy in a bikini. You gave me my confidence, girl.
Well, listen, it's always heartwarming to hear that, I could give someone some confidence and a smile. I know it can be a very interesting journey, that one, particularly that one. So I'm glad.
Yes, it was very tough.
So let's talk about your interest in the world of education. We have so many conversations as a society around bridging the educational gap, particularly for children in under-resourced communities. For you,
100.
why is this so important?
So, I'll put it like this. My mom is a teacher. My dad was a teacher. Everybody at home was in the educational space. And what I realized was all these kids would always come to me for help. And I was living in Thokoza at the time, not an informal settlement. It's still an urban area in South Africa. But what I realized was these kids, the ones that go to multiracial schools and the ones that go to schools in the township, there's actually a gap, especially when it comes to self-confidence. And then I look at the ones that I'm passionate about developing, which are kids living with disabilities. I'm like, hold on. There's also a gap here. They're not united because they don't even help each other. I remember the one time one needed the toilet. Yeah, he was in a wheelchair. But no one was willing to take him to the bathroom to help him with his cassette and all of that. I'm like, I want to bridge the gap between the multiracial and the ones that are in schools in the township, as well as the abled and the differently abled. So for me, it's always been passion. I just want to see kids grow together. You have to start them from grassroots.
Absolutely. And from your sort of your work and your perspective, Lerato, what do you think it is that has created, I guess, what would be these social gaps amongst generational peers? Because we like to romanticize it and think that regardless of where kids come from, regardless of their environment or their socioeconomic standing of their family and their parents, when they come together as kids, they find common ground. And they tend to do so more willingly than adults. But here you are pointing out that, no, actually, there could be a real tangible gap between them, though there's a desire for them to come together, but to find that commonality can be a bit difficult in the first stages. What do you think it is that creates that sort of that distance between various kids from various communities?
Look, I'm not even going to flinch about it, but it's our educational system and the curriculum as a whole. I remember in 2021, I took my learning curriculum to be adjudicated by the Department of Education. And I loved how they critiqued it. They loved it, and they were like, but you're doing this, you're not an educator. There are certain things that are missing there. I sat down with people at home. I'm like, okay, my curriculum is almost there. But this and this is what's happening. Our educational system does not allow us to come together. I mean, typically, I'll give you an example. There's no Eisteddfod in the township. And what Eisteddfod did for me was give me confidence. I can gladly stand in front of lots of people and speak or do a speech and do debating. There's no debating. There's a test that helps with cognitive development. But yet there are resources. What made me start a tennis club in the township was, okay, at ground days, but the tennis court is empty. Let me open a tennis club. Yes, Lerato buys rackets, pays a coach. And then I'm like, okay, kids, let's go play tennis. First 3 weeks, I'm walking with these kids, I'm taking them. And then when I'm not there, the parents are like, Lerato, the kids are not going because you're not there. But I'm like, there's a resource. I'm paying a course. There are rackets. Where are you meeting me? Why aren't you meeting me halfway? The parents are to also blame because right now it's even worse because they were on our cell phones.
I hear you. All right, let's talk about the sort of bridging the gap through play and animation. And you've developed something, and you've brought on board some partners. Tell us a bit more.
Okay, my animation is called The Birth of Robotical Land. It will be out in October. And then there's one thing I've always wanted to do, and I've always said, I want to become an industrialist. I want to grow the South African economy. I'm looking at the GDP right now. We're back at being number one. But how do we stay there? We look at our exports. I studied export, and I'm like, we need to grow our manufacturing space as a country. And I wanted to become that black girl who was like, I want to become an industrialist, as well as still grow my name in the entertainment space through education and entertainment. So what I then did was I decided to partner with Orchid Designs. I'm like, okay, I have this idea, I want to do puzzles. So let's do these puzzles. These puzzles must help the kids that are living with disability and also help them with just knowing geography as a whole. Just knowing our country, knowing our world, knowing our province. So that's what I decided to do, and that was because I want to become a well-renowned businesswoman in industrialization.
All right. So you've created these sort of educational puzzles, as you say, that will also help children strengthen their interest and their learning in particular subjects like geography. Tell us how do they work, and are they certain sort of age groups that you are targeting?
I'm targeting anything from 3 years and above. It's actually a family game.
Oh, okay.
Let me put it that way. And it's not only for geography, but we need to go back as to what do puzzles help with? Puzzles help with motor skills. Puzzles help with problem solving. So it's making sure that I'm giving you something fun for you to do, but at the same time, it's strengthening some of your weaknesses as a kid.
And very important to this, in fact, we were having a conversation around learning through play just last week with some educators from Curo. So you say that the puzzles are coming out in October. And
the animation is coming out in October. The puzzles are out.
Okay.
They're just not out on my website as yet. So the puzzles is like, Lerato, I'd like to order. I've just been having problems with my website, but they'll be available on my website as soon as my website is ready.
All right. So the animation is out, and then the puzzles are made to order. And they'll be ready as soon as the orders come in and the website is ready. All right. Yes. And then are you making these available also to ECD centers?
Yes. I've actually gifted a couple of ECD centers.
Aha. Lovely stuff. These are things we love to know. So just for those who want to bookmark your website, I'm pretty sure you're going to get that up and running properly in the matter of just a few weeks.
A few hours. No.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's just done for the day. Okay.
It's a few hours. I'm actually still with it. I'm busy with the interface.
All right. So
we've been having problems.
Give us that website.
It's www.leratomodise.co.za.
LeratoModise.co.za. Awesome stuff. Lerato, we wish you the very best. Keep the energy going. We need more enthusiastic young businesswomen and industrialists in the country. And of course, that website, www.leratomodise.co.za. That's where you can go to have a look at the birth of robotical lands. And that is, of course, the animation, and those are educational puzzles that might come in handy for you and your kids. We've been proponents here on this show by sheer accident now of learning through play, and so this could be an interesting addition for you to put into the learning schedule in your household. It's just gone 20-1. That was Lerato Modise. Let's take a quick pause and then we come back and we get into our next conversation.
Made in SA with Bridget Masinga.
They didn't even let me catch a breath. It is a Made in SA on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. And of course, we know that South Africa is a melting pot of cultures, traditions and people, which makes for an interesting world of design, right? And one designer that has caught the eye is Usianda Mbele of Pinda Designs, and they're a cutting-edge furniture and interior design company. How are you doing this afternoon, Sianda?
I'm good. How are you, Bridget?
I'm great. Thank you. Cannot complain. Interesting world this when we get into, furniture, textiles, and we're seeing so many creatives infiltrating the space and doing, bringing forth amazing but also just authentically African aesthetics. Tell us a bit more about Pinda Designs.
Oh, so Pinda started around about 2014 when I entered designing the emerging creators. And what I was looking at in the industry was the lack of a representation in terms of African design. So after that, I started doing some research, and I was automatically drawn into Ndebele design. So the Ndebele patterns that Umam Esther Masango does, I was just like so involved and like in love with them. And I wanted to interpret that into furniture because I'd seen it. We really love the culture, but we kind of box it. So we do the ceremonies and we dress up, and then we put it in a box again, and then we open the box again, but we do not really live with the culture.
Yeah.
So I wanted to introduce that into our daily spaces and create furniture that carries meaning, and they could like carry a conversation within the house.
I see.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is just for people to sort of understand also where maybe you are envisioning your company is an understanding how you derived at the name Pinda.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was part of an incubation at SABS Design Institute in Pretoria, and we were just brainstorming some names, and they said to me, just name it after something that is very consistent, or that like that. And then Pinda came about. It is a Zulu word for Pinda again. So what I found was that I have continuous growth. The product is continuously growing again. Everything is like repeating again and again. And then the growth of the business, the growth as me as a business leader, understanding the business. So there was this continuation and this repetition that was happening of growth. So that's where the name Upinda came about.
And I think it also speaks to what you've just said, right, about the Ndebele culture being an inspiration for you, but also this thing that we do with culture as South Africans, that it's almost performative, and it doesn't become a lived everyday part of our lives. We perform it at certain intervals and then pack it away, and then perform it and pack it away. Whereas, from what I understand, you've taken that one step further with your furniture and said that this is something that must immerse and live fully and wholly in you and in your spaces.
Yes. So that also you can also, what I was looking at was the youth coming up. And I think Ukoko Esther Masango mentioned that we must do a cultural restoration. And once the piece is in your home, the conversation begins because it's got symbolisms in them, and those symbolisms carry meaning. So now it's not just an artifact with beautiful pattern, but those symbols carry meaning, and you can have a conversation, start to unpack what do they mean back then and what do they mean now. And then keep the culture alive and still keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Did I also read that you were nominated as one of the most beautiful things in South Africa? By the way, I love that award.
Yes. So that was Designing Daba.
Yes.
We were nominated as one of the most beautiful objects.
Yeah.
And we were nominated by the amazing photographer Trevor Thurman. And then so we were competing against other beautiful objects in South Africa. And so that was an amazing experience, being nominated and also later being a curator for Designing Daba Emerging Creatives, that's where my career started. So that full circle moment where the place that launched my career also recognizes the work that I do and then brings me back as a curator and also nominates the product. So that was an amazing experience.
Can I tell you how difficult it is to actually choose a most beautiful thing in South Africa? I was once asked to do that a few years ago, and it is, you sweat under every pore as you try and think of the subject. But I think that people who get asked have a very unique eye for creative aesthetics and an understanding of the dynamism of creativity in South Africa on the one part. And they understand also the complexities of being a creative in particular spaces. And hence the items that they nominate really are items by creative who stand out a cream above the very best of them in the country at that time. And so congratulations for you for really being nominated and being named the most beautiful thing. And you've gone on to collaborate with some other incredible designers. I mean, you've done some pieces for David Nxumalo, for instance, and done some really bespoke items for him. What has it been like for you sort of infiltrating this design space, but also seeing your works now living, as part of these complete, beautiful aesthetics, whether we're talking private residences, whether we're talking businesses? What does that feel like for you as a designer, and particularly as a design entrepreneur?
Yeah, so for me, I had to find my tribe. That was the first step. I had to find my community, people who are going to understand the product that I do. And I was lucky enough to meet them through exhibitions that I used to do back then. And fortunately, an amazing relationship with Donald Nxumalo, with also Nando's, working closely with Proportion Studio now, and other many interior designers who stock our products. And they live in multiple spaces and offices, like you said, hotels, all over the world. So that is an amazing, it's really amazing to see the community come together. And seeing that I'm not alone thinking about this, but there are other people, other designers who think about it, and we collaborate and put it together to create amazing spaces.
Absolutely. I mean, such statement pieces. I'm looking at these two occasionals that you did in 2020 on your Instagram, and you can see that Indebele sort of inspiration coming through. But a cause for one to just stop and pause and actually talk about the piece in the space, because it's artistic in its nature, though functional.
Yes. So that's the design language we do. Even with our latest rugs that we do, they take the shape of the pattern. And we don't just only apply the pattern on the surface, but the pattern takes the form, the shape of the item that we are creating. And also, as Africans, we are not really quite modest. We're very bold.
Yes.
We're very bold from the way we speak, everything. So that is supposed to translate also into the furniture that we create. From the way we carry ourselves and the pride that we have. That's why you see the bold shapes in everything that we create.
Listen, congratulations to you for launching this incredible brand, Sianda. We wish you nothing but the very best. We'll be keeping a keen eye on the growth of Pindut Designs, doing fabulous things. You can go onto their Instagram page and have a look. Their handle is simply @Pindut Design. Order a statement piece or two for your home as well. Let's just have some talkability in our spaces, because why not? That was made in SA this afternoon with Sianda Mbele, founder of Pindut Designs. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner, and then of course Medupi is coming through at the top of the hour.
Feel good breakfast show.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063 408 8863, and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
Nelson Mandela once said,
"It is our hope that people will dedicate their time and effort to improve the conditions within their own communities."
Let's honor his legacy. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Good day everyone, my name is Amima Zumiana. Today I'm going to be talking about encouraging kids to be helpful in celebration of Mandela Month. When someone helps me, I feel happy and grateful. Like the time my sister helped me with my hard homework. It made a big difference I think kids my age can be helpful in lots of ways, like assisting with chores, caring for pets, supporting your friends. Even small acts of kindness, like sharing or listening, can make a big difference. I think it's important to lend a helping hand because it shows we can care and make others feel happy. Plus, it makes us feel good too. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys learned something new today. See you guys next time. Bye.
Hi, SAFM. My name is Angel from Berkeley Primary. I feel loved when someone helps me. Every time I come home with homework and I don't understand it, my dad always comes to my rescue. He helps me understand what I am doing and corrects me when I am wrong. With my dad always helping me, it made me realize that I should take schoolwork seriously in order to make him proud. Kids my age can be helpful by helping their parents around in the house with work or with home chores. I love to cheer people up and lend a helping hand whenever needed. I believe it is important to lend a helping hand to others because it is a way of showing kindness and love to others. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Arham Ahmed. I am 9 years old and I go to Brixton Primary School.
I feel like the person that helped me is my hero. Yes, the time was when I was alone on the street and I was hungry. A woman came and gave me chips. That's when I felt like the woman is my hero. By sharing my food with them, respecting, loving and helping, by donating my clothes to the needy. Cause when you help, people become kind to you and will help you whenever you need help.
Greetings. Today I'll be talking about the important basis of being helpful. Helping someone is something very good and kind, and I love doing that so that when I am in need of help, they can help me too. I can share a time with you guys of when I was helping someone. I once helped my friend when she lost her pencil case and we finally found it, and then she promised that she will always help me, and we always spend time together. So whenever she loses things, I help her, and whenever I lose my stationery or anything, she also helps me. So that's why I think helping is good, because some other day you'll also need help. The simple acts of kindness that I enjoy doing is helping, caring, and making people feel better. I enjoy engaging in a lot of games and having fun with my peers. I think it's important to lend a helping hand to others, whether it is at home, at school, or in the community, because I know they're in need of help, and someday I'll also be in need of help, and then they might also help me. Thank you. By the way, happy Mandela Month. Thank you.
Good day, parents. My name is Kapiamba, my surname is Nabo, and I'm 12 years old. When someone helps me, I feel good. No, I don't have a time when someone's help made a difference to me. They can help those in need and be kind to each other. Yes, they are. I think it's important because it's always good to help people wherever you are. Thank you for listening.
My name is Duretang Ndlovu. I'm 12 years old and I go to Mokole House School. I would say yes, I am helpful. If I could help around my community, I would start a children's club to try and give kids a fun time to feel free. Yes, I do think that it is a good thing for children to be helpful at home and around their community, because they can make many people happy with their contributions. At home, you can always help out by cooking, cleaning, or taking care of something else for someone in your house. In your community, neighbors might need help fixing something that you just know how to fix.
My name and surname is Piero Shempembe. I am a helpful person. I assist my parents in taking care of my baby brother. I also assist at home by taking care of our garden and our pets. I also have to assist with washing the dishes. If I could help around the community, I would assist in keeping my community clean, having campaigns with others to pick up papers and clean our community, Yes, it is very important to be helpful at home and in my community. It teaches us to be a good person and good character. Kindness and thoughtfulness is important and can go a long way.
Hello, friends! Today, let's talk about the importance of making a positive impact and being of assistance to others, especially because tomorrow we're celebrating Mandela Day. Being helpful as a child is important not only some days, but always, as it helps create a better world and brings joy to others. Whether you're at school, at home, or in your community, lending a helping hand shows that you truly care. In school, you can assist your classmates by sharing your supplies, helping them grasp their lessons, or simply being a good friend. Your acts of kindness create a warm and supportive atmosphere where everyone can thrive. At home, you can help your family by doing chores such as tidying up your room, setting up the table, or looking after your pets. By pitching in at home, you ease the burden on your parents and demonstrate your gratitude for all they do for you. Working together as a family not only brings happiness to your home, but also teaches you about responsibility. In your community, there are countless ways to be of service. You can clean up litter in your neighborhood, assist an elderly neighbor with their groceries, or volunteer at a local charity event. Your contributions to the community make it a more pleasant place for everyone to live. Additionally, it helps you learn about kindness, teamwork, and the significance of giving back. Being helpful benefits not only others, but also brings a sense of fulfillment to you. When you help someone, you feel a sense of pride and happiness, knowing that you've made a positive impact on their lives. It boosts self-confidence and imparts valuable life skills. Always keep an eye out for opportunities to lend a hand wherever you are. By being helpful, you can truly make a difference, especially during Mandela Month, and contribute to creating a brighter and better world for all. By being helpful, you can truly make a difference, especially during Mandela Month and during Mandela Day, and contribute to creating a brighter and better world for all.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Top stories at 2 o'clock, a fatal hijacking incident in Cape Town and Zuma's ANC DC hearing underway. A very good afternoon. 4 people have been killed during an alleged hijack incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police say reports suggest that as the 3 suspects attempted to get away, they collided with an SUV and a truck. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg.
Mitchell's Plain Police registered 4 counts of culpable homicide following a fatal crash on Baden Powell Drive in which 4 adult males died. 3 suspects and the truck driver were declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel. The circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation. Anyone with any information about this incident is kindly requested to contact Crime Stop.
The DA in Gauteng says it agrees with the Cancer Alliance and Section 27 that money not used by Gauteng Health could lead to cancer patients losing their lives. The civil organizations have filed a High Court application citing the alleged failure of the Gauteng Health Department to use the 784 million rand budgeted in 2023 to provide cancer patients with life-saving treatment. DA Gauteng Shadow Health MEC Jack Bloom says that cancer patients urgently need treatment. Section 27's Kanyima Pipa says the court application will be heard next Tuesday in the Joburg High Court.
In the application, we seek in the main an interdict preventing Gauteng Health from paying, dispersing and otherwise dealing with the 250 million rand set aside for the procurement of radiation oncology planning services. And in Part B of our application, we seek an order setting aside, firstly, the decision to allot only 250 million rand of the 784 million rand ring-fenced for the urgent response to the crisis, and secondly, the setting aside of the decision to only procure radiation oncology planning services as opposed to fully integrated treatment.
Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says the current environmental legislation and policies need to be modernized to deal with climate change. There have been reports of flooding in parts of the Western Cape over the past week, which has left scores of people displaced. There have also been reports of wildfires in parts of KZN, which left agricultural land damaged and some residents without homes. Steenhuisen says these outdated policies make it impossible to use the new technology which can help prevent environmental catastrophes.
Some of the legislation governing the sector dates back to 1947, which means we're not able to take advantage of some of the cutting-edge technology, some of the new crop varieties that are more resistant to some of the worst elements of climate change, and we need to modernize that sector to make sure that our farmers remain on the international cutting edge of the farming community.
The ANC has confirmed that the disciplinary hearing against former President Jacob Zuma is going ahead on a virtual platform. The hearing began at 10 this morning and has not been open to the media. Zuma was suspended from the ANC this year after he confirmed that he would no longer campaign for the party, endorsing the newly formed MK party instead. Sibahle Mota reports.
The ANC has released a statement that the disciplinary hearing by the party's National Disciplinary Committee against former ANC President Jacob Zuma continues as planned. Spokesperson Zuko Godlimpi says that a verdict against Zuma will be announced once the committee has received and reviewed all representations. He adds that the ANC cannot specify the timeline for the disciplinary process. Zuma, who was suspended from the ANC in January, has been charged under Rule 25 of the ANC Constitution, which states that party members cannot endorse other political parties. I am Sibahle Mota in Johannesburg.
And police in Thailand say 6 Vietnamese nationals who were found dead in a luxury hotel suite in Bangkok yesterday were probably poisoned by tea laced with cyanide in a suspected murder-suicide case. The rapid-acting deadly chemical was found on drinking glasses and a teapot in the room. The BBC's Nick Marsh has more.
The dead were 3 women and 3 men who were all Vietnamese. Thai police now suspect that one of those who died had also poisoned the others. Officers told a news conference that cyanide was discovered in their blood and in teacups from which the victims had drunk. Investigators said that food that had been delivered to the room was untouched. The motive isn't clear, but police said that 2 of the 6 had loaned a substantial amount of money to another of the deceased for investment purposes.
Recapping the top story at 2, 4 people have been killed during an alleged hijack incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. The Full Circle continues. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
July is a film month, and KwaZulu-Natal Tourism and Film Authority welcomes filmmakers from all over the world who are attending the exciting festivities that are lined up. The Durban International Film Festival, the Durban Film Mart, and Isipeto program. The Simon Sabelo KZN Film and Television Awards are going to be held on the 20th of July. We look forward to hosting you in our beautiful province and, of course, doing tourism and film business. Join the conversation using the hashtag SSA24 and hashtag Beyond Imagination, as well as hashtag KZN Has It All.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Go ahead, man. Here, have $1. In fact, no, brother man, here, have $2. $2 means a snack for me, but it means a big deal to you. Be strong, serve God only. Know that if you do, beautiful heaven awaits. That's the poem I wrote for the first time. I saw a man with no clothes, no money, no plate, Mr. Wendell. That's his name. No one ever knew his name, cause he's a no one. Never thought twice about spending on an old bum until I had the chance to really get to know one. Now that I know him, to give him money isn't charity. He gives me some knowledge, I buy him some shoes. And to think blacks spend all their money on big colleges, still most of y'all come out confused. Go ahead, Mr. Wendell. Go ahead, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Wendell has freedom, a free that you and I think is dumb. Free to be without the worries of a quick to diss society, for Mr. Wendell's a bum. His only worries are sickness and an occasional harassment by the police in their chase. Uncivilized we call him, but I just saw him eat off the food we waste. Civilization, are we really civilized? Yes or no? Who are we to judge when thousands of innocent men can be brutally enslaved or killed over a racist grudge? Mr. Wendell has tried to warn us about our ways, but we don't hear him talk. Is it his fault when we've gone too far, and we got too far, cause on him we've walked? Mr. Wendell, a man, a human in flesh, but not by law. I bid you dignity to stand with pride. Realize that all in all, you stand tall. Go ahead, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Wendell, yeah. Yeah, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Wendell, yeah. Lord. Mr. Wendell. Mr. Wendell, Mr. Wendell, yeah, Lord, Mr. Wendell, Mr. Wendell, yeah, Lord, Mr. Wendell.
It is Arrested Development coming through with Mr. Wendell. We thought we'd take it back with a little bit of, R&B, hip-hop, soul for you. Why not? This song is one of those, I think, that's just a marker within urban culture, right? It's a marker within urban culture. Definitely going down probably as top 100 hip hop R&B tracks of all time. If there was ever such a capsule that will sort of hold the history of hip hop and its significance from the musical perspective, it definitely would be Mr. Wendell, and Arrested Development would make it into that top 100. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Our guests are literally in studio. We're going to be talking around married at first sight. And the lines are open for you to share your opinions on 061 410 4107 and 086 000 2032. I want to know from you, would you ever marry somebody you've never met, never spoken to, don't know their name, their surname, whether or not there's anything in common? Oh my gosh, I can think of the many ways that our parents and our uncles would probably be up in arms at such a situation. And here is the couple from Mzansi Magic's Married at First Sight who are going to tell us, about the motivation behind this journey for them and making this particular choice and how it's worked out for them. Let's take a pause and then we'll come back and get into the conversation.
Nelson Mandela once said,
It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it.
SAFM urges you to identify those in need around you and to do what you can to make a difference to them. Tata Mandela went further to say, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month. The National Pulse.
The big question right now is what impact has it had on the morale of the former president? We certainly heard him say fight 3 times. And what impact does it have on the morale of the Republican Party and Americans in general?
Well, certainly there's going to be a rallying effect around Donald Trump in the short term. The fact that he was able to stand up as quickly as he did and, put his fist in the air, those are very strong images. And they come at a time where there have been a lot of questions about Joe Biden and his resilience and strength and so forth. So we'll see a rallying around Trump in the short term. The timing of this around the convention obviously speaks to that as well. What it means for 2 months or 4 months down the road, I just don't think we know yet.
Doug Hay is a former communications director for the Republican National Committee.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Alrighty. So let's get into this one. It is a Wednesday after all, and Wednesdays, we focus on relationship things on the show, especially after 2 o'clock. And today, the team thought that we should do an interesting angle, right? Based on a... Thank you. They're just closing the door. All right. So today we're taking an interesting angle because we're looking at, I guess, what some might call an unusual... sorry. Did I just knock off your phone? Some might call it an unusual setup to find themselves in. There's the franchise, the television franchise. You've seen it, Married at First Sight. It's an international franchise. We now have Mzansi version of it. We're a few episodes into it. It sees couples who've never met come together and quite literally marry on the spot. No hello, no precursor, no let's go on a first date, let's feel each other out, let's see if we like each other. The person standing at the altar and the other person walks down and they get married and life begins and we move on from there. And we've got, one of the couples joining us from the show, Ditswanelo Siturumane is here. And of course, Khutso Mokoena is also here, and they were married on the show. And can I call you D?
Yes, you may.
Okay. D is here, and I'm asking if I can call Ditswanelo D because on the show she calls herself D. So D is here, and she's 31, a law student as well as a pastry chef and a mom of one. And Khutso Mokoena, who is a data analyst and a father of one. Let me start at the beginning. Because curiosity. How are you guys, by the way? You comfortable?
Yeah, we're good.
You good?
Yeah.
You comfortable with each other?
It's too late for that now.
Why the awkward laughter? How long has it been since, I mean, those of us who work in television, we all obviously understand there's casting periods, then the pre-production, then filming, then post-edit before we can ever TX on television. So how long ago did you guys get married now?
We got married on the 1st of September, 2023.
1st of September, 2023.
Yeah, so it's almost been a year.
Wow. Still married?
I guess watch the show and find out.
Oh, come on! Like I was hoping to find out something. So 1st of September 2023.
Yeah.
What was the motivation, Dee? What was the motivation for you going this route, marrying a complete stranger?
It was quite an impulsive decision. I think I was the last person that they cast.
Okay.
But overall, I'd been on the dating apps. And if you've been there, you know that it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And it's kind of just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing which one sticks. And none of it was sticking. So I just thought, what could be worse than my experience on dating apps? May as well try this.
And you figured marrying a complete stranger was the next best thing.
Yes.
Listen, you guys are braver than me. Khutso, for you, what was the motivation?
I don't know. At first for me, it was, okay, I wasn't really for the idea. But then when I thought about it was like, maybe it could be a win-win because you get to basically write paragraphs of the kind of person you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You do interviews, and I figured, what if they get it right?
Yeah.
What if they do actually find me everything I've written down? So I was like, what do I have to lose? If anything, I'll get a great experience out of it. If I'm lucky, I'll get a wife out of it. So
we got questions. 061404104107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086002032 is the number that you can call us on. By the way, we are live streaming. If you want to see the couple, you absolutely can log on to any of our social media sites to have a look at them. Let's take a quick ad break here, and then we'll come back on the other side of this.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The European outfit want to interrogate African resilience, but Tanzanian champions are highly spirited to rise. German Bundesliga club FC Augsburg battles it out with Yanga SC from Tanzania. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Do not miss out on the mouth-watering clash between FC Augsburg and Young Africans on Saturday, 20 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
So, we all are seeking, well, I guess majority, let me not say all, majority of us are seeking companionship, we're seeking love, we're seeking partnership. And there's a vast majority of South Africans, as well as just global citizens at large, that are single and that are struggling to find love. They, registering on the dating apps, swiping left, swiping right, swiping up, swiping down, and things are not working out, right? And we've moved into other interesting ways to maybe engage the possibility of relationships. We've got dating sites, we've got speed dating, we've now got dating reality shows and marriage reality shows, and some work and some don't work. And if you follow all the respective brands and the couples that have come on our television, you'll see that there's been some success stories, that come out of these kinds of formats. And we're hoping that this story is one of those. But from the onset, they said they're not going to tell me anything. 06 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. And of course, 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Would you ever try something like this if you've been in the dating scene and maybe you are struggling to find your perfect match? Would you ever put your hand up to marry somebody that comes at the recommendation maybe of your friend or your church or people who know you and know what you like, who say, hey, I've got somebody for you that I think would be the perfect person? We don't even have to take it as far as having clinical psychologist and the pool of people on this show who help these two out. But would you take the recommendation of people around you if they said to you, I know somebody who'd be your perfect wife or your perfect husband, and actually marry that person and give it a chance? Let me find out what was also on your list. So, Khutsu, you say, as part of, because there's a panel, right? There's psychologists and relationship experts and all kinds of people on the show who've picked the partners for each other, from what I got.
Yeah. So, yes. So basically what you do is you take a psych exam, for example. You have to define physically what you're looking for, characteristics and all that. So what I had on my list was someone who can take accountability. I think that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Or someone who can say, sorry, I messed up. Or someone who can say, I hear you, I get where you're coming from. So things like that, that's what I had on my list.
All right.
And then obviously they also ask you the physical features, height, complexion, kids or no kids. And with me, I guess I said I don't mind if they have a kid because I have a kid myself.
Yeah.
And then I had to describe physically what I'm looking for. And
did it come close? D just leaned in like a hair. Tell me.
Well, there's some. I said something on the show that I like bums, and it's been going around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But there's no regrets.
No, there's no regret.
Okay.
What
was on your list? I mean, I watched the introduction episodes. And you seem very headstrong, very assertive, not in a bad way, just assertive as to this is what I like and this is what I don't like, and please.
That's just the way that I am. I still am that way.
Yeah.
On my list, I had tall, dark, must go to the gym, must have at least one child, maximum 2.
Yes.
And must have a well-established career.
Okay.
And must have a car.
And what of the characteristics, Dee? What was of importance for you? Like Khutsu talks about accountability and someone who's able to say sorry. For you, what was at the top of that list?
Kindness. I want somebody that's kind. I think it will, not only towards me, but also towards my son.
Important.
Yeah. I think it's something that can be taught. Not necessarily to an adult. I don't know if adults can learn to be kind. I don't know. But if my son sees that the person that I've brought into our lives is a kind person, it will have an influence on him. That's important to me.
Yeah. I got the sense that you also really much wanted someone with a child.
Yes, absolutely. That's important to me because I don't know if I was matched with somebody that didn't have a child, if they'd be able to understand some of the things that I have to deal with as a co-parent and as a single parent, especially because my child is very small. Those little humans are crazy and very demanding. So I don't know if they would show me grace if, for example, I said, we can't go out this weekend. I have my son with me, or if they would get fed up with that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a fair and valid point. I mean, coming to this, and you spoke about sort of being a spontaneous decision, right? To get to the point of sort of putting your hand up for something like this. I don't want to say enter because it almost trivializes the journey, but putting your hand up for something like this, because there's a vulnerability in it, I think, saying, to yourself and to your immediate community, forget the rest of us 60 million South Africans, but to your immediate community, to saying, listen, I've tried the conventional ways, and quite frankly, it's failing me, this thing of relationshiping, and so now I'm putting myself out there. Did you ever think about maybe the negatives or the response that possibly could come from your inner circle, your family, your brother, your father's child, your child's father, and such people who rightfully have an opinion on your life?
Is that a question towards me?
Yeah. I'm looking at you dead in the eye.
No, I didn't think about that because honestly, I'm an adult. I'm not doing anything that is unlawful.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything that would harm me or my child or my immediate support system.
Yeah.
So if there was uproar, if I can say that, amongst my people, that's on them. Their feelings are valid, but they're also not my responsibility. However, that wasn't the case. Luckily, I have quite a liberal mother, and my son's father felt a way about it. But once again, those are his feelings. They're valid, but they're for him to deal with, not me.
You see what I was saying about her being assertive? Let's go to Nkosi. Nkosi? Is it Nkosi from Cape Town? Nkosi from Cape Town.
Yes.
Let's cut to you quickly, brother, before the headline news. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine, and you?
I'm great. Go ahead.
Yes, it's Nkoseko from Cape Town.
Yay.
Yes, this conversation is very important because these days things like that is happening. So you can find someone you never see, you never chat, you never do nothing, but you married each other. So I felt it's true, that thing. But I'm also struggling to get a wife.
Okay, we'll deal with you struggling to get a wife a different day. Thank you, Nkosiko. Michael's out in Kabeja. Let's go to you quickly.
I don't think they are doing anything that is strange or extraordinary, because think about it. You can meet a person, right, and say, oh, we need to get to know each other, maybe after 6 months, a year, or whatever the case might be, and only get to know the person maybe after 5-6 years and find out this is actually who this person is. So I don't think they are doing anything extraordinary, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael out in Kabeja always has an interesting perspective. 061-410-4107. That's our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Would you marry somebody at first sight? Do you think it's, absolutely normal? Actually, when you think about the fact that so many cultures do practice arranged marriage, even, in 2024, it's not so strange, as Michael's is alluding to. Let's go to Madupi with the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side and continue.
Thanks, Bridge, and good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, 4 people have been killed during an alleged hijack incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. The DA in Gauteng says it agrees with the Cancer Alliance and Section 27 that money not used by Gauteng Health could lead to cancer patients losing their lives. And 50 people have been killed since the start of anti-government protests in Kenya a month ago, with protesters returning to the streets today demanding that government takes responsibility. Details of these and other stories coming up at 3.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
We are in conversation with Ditwanelo. Ditwanelo, ngicela ungisize again with your surname. Siturumane. There we go. Thank you so much. And of course, Khutso Mukwena joining us, and they are a newlywed couple coming off Married at First Sight, and it's on the telly right now. Let me ask you, Khutso. There's so many things. Before this, for instance, we were talking about African marriage rites, for instance, and rituals and things that we go through. And oftentimes our families want to be part of these kinds of processes, on both sides, equally so for the female, equally so for the male. How is it for you? Do you come from a modernist or traditionalist family? Was there expectations for you prior to making this decision that as the son in our family, this is how we'd like you to go about this? And when you decided to find love this way, what was the response?
I mean, I was raised by my grandparents. And because of that, you'd assume that they are traditional in a sense, but they're also pretty understanding. If anything, if I didn't do this, they were going to arrange someone for me.
Oh, really?
Because I'm from Limpopo, and a lot of people get married at a very young age, that side. And me being like this old, and when I get there, everyone is married except for me, they were going to arrange someone for me. So I don't think it's if anything, they are hoping that it worked out.
Yeah.
And they are hoping that if it did work out, we're going to continue being married. So it wasn't a big thing.
Yeah.
And obviously, yes, they do want to get involved if we did decide to stay together.
Guys, now you're giving us, you're putting innuendo that there could be a possibility that you guys did not stay together.
We'll watch the show and find out.
Okay.
So yes, all the traditional stuff that we still need to do. Yeah, so if we, after the show, we did decide to stay together, it was still going to follow the same traditional sense of things.
Okay. Oh, so that stuff would come in you sort of, you putting this, the process of the show has put the cart before the horse, but then you work it backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I kind of get that. What would have been the deal breaker in this arrangement? What would have been the deal breaker after, the premise is marry at first sight, so obviously you have to say I do, but what would have been the deal breaker for either one of you to walk away from this situation?
I think in one of the episodes that I've already aired, I mentioned that if Kuzo developed an addiction to substances, I would definitely walk away. Mainly because I was raised in a family with an alcoholic father, and his father was also an alcoholic. He actually died from kidney failure.
Yeah.
And obviously then I was a child and I had no say in what was going on, or if whether my mother stayed with my father or not. But I wish she had left sooner. So because I'm now in the position of being a parent, I know what that would do to my son if he were to develop an addiction to substances. That was my deal breaker. And obviously if there was any form of abuse towards me, not just abusing substances.
Makes perfect sense. Did you have a deal breaker?
Yeah, mostly on my side, it was mostly on the characteristic side as well. For example, on the show, on the very first episode, Dee says she's a bully. And I think a lot of people misunderstood that. So if she was actually a bully, like how people took it, that would have been a deal breaker for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she was a bully like that girl on that other show that we won't mention. But from what I understood watching, to what I've said now 3 times, you just are very assertive.
Yes.
With a very strong character, you know. And so innately her, because even when she walked in here, I don't know, she was doing something on her phone and I asked her something and she turned around to just answer that and then went back to her phone. So it's just who she is as a person. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, or 0614104110 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Hi Bridget, it's Portia from Soweto. I watched the show and I've always been curious and concerned. How do they handle issues of intimacy? Like, what happens? Like, yeah, I'm curious.
Okay. I mean, I saw that first night was a bit awkward. You know, the other couple was like, Mina, wena, Mina forever. Hey, Mina, you were like, eh. Like, is it still awkward?
Like you said, I'm quite an assertive person. I have my boundaries set and I don't waver from them. So for me, that first night was just, I think it sunk in that, oh my goodness, this is actually real. And I knew that I needed time to just process that by myself so that the following day I can be fully present and not sort of still have this emotional whiplash. So, yeah, I said, we're not going to be sharing a room. We're not going to be sharing a bed. And he was kind about it. He wasn't pushy or anything. So I don't think that impacted our intimate life in any way.
You know what I'm trying to gauge, and for anyone watching, so I've moved them apart for the purposes of our camera angles. They were sitting quite close to each other. But what I'm trying to gauge, and because really the season is only like 5 episodes in, and there's other couples coming in and out, is you don't get a sense sitting with the two of you guys in studio of where you're at with this relationship, whether or not you're at the stage of still getting to know each other, because it's been such a long ways from September, if we are to assume that you are still together and happily married, if there's a sense of connection between the two of you, or there's a sense of, but there's still that first date energy of awkwardness. But then it could also be that because maybe you're not together as we sit here today. You know, so it's a very difficult thing for us to gauge. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Hello, Bridget. I've actually watched Married at First Sight, the American version. And I've also watched the movie Love at First Sight. And what I'm always curious to know is, what is the reality show? Now I'm referring to the reality show because the Love at First Sight is a movie. But then the reality show, what is the first conversation of the night? Like, you know, when they get together, what is the first thing that they say to each other? And how's the mood? I don't mean that they should reveal, you know, the intimate part, but then what is the mood in the house? Because, you know, to be honest, Bridget, even if you have to wait to marry someone, you never know what's on the other end. I'm married now, and there's certain things that I see that I don't like, and I dated this person for 7 years, you know? So either you marry someone that you have met today, or you marry someone that you have met 10 years ago. It doesn't make any difference. People change. This is Tepiso.
Good afternoon, Bridget. Good afternoon, Bridget. Yeah, you know, if they are happy with their union, then none of us will judge them. Because I stand to believe that there was a reason for our parents to teach us that sometimes, somehow, before you can marry a person, take your time, get to know the person before. I think there was a reason for that, but if they are happy, who are we to can judge? Let the show goes on.
Quite literally, the show goes on. We've got some messages as well. Hey, Bridget, this is the same as an arranged marriage. It's worked for years, and I think if both parties are determined to make it work, then it will work. Going back to Tsepiso's point, and I think, Dee touched on it, that first night for you was about just letting everything sink in, that this is where we're at. For you, Khutso, and Dee was wondering about that first conversation, because I think even that is a conversation between the two of you, right? Like, how do we let this sink in?
I think even though going in, I assumed that we're going to sleep in the same bedroom.
How manly of you.
But when it didn't happen as well, I think it also helped me as well to just get into it. So we did talk for some time, getting to know each other. And yes, the conversations you have is, what's your name again?
Yeah.
Where are you from again? Because obviously when we were on the altar, we didn't get enough time to talk, get to know each other. Because I only found out her name was Ditshwanelo on the altar. And obviously you have to now say vows to this person you've never met and promise them heaven and earth while you don't know them. So although my vows weren't a bit different.
Was that difficult for you? Because, I chuckled a bit at your vows and Dee took a swipe at them because hers seemed rooted in substance and yours...
Mine were very cool. Because I felt
but
like
non-committal.
because I felt like I don't know this person. I've never met them, and I can't promise that I will love them till the ends of time, because it's also married at first sight, which means at the first go we have to go with sight. And what if I see someone and I don't like them, and I already wrote this vows promising to love them, then I'll be lying. So I didn't want to lie. I just felt like let me just talk about practical things like I'll open a jar for you. I'll I'll clean, I'll do everything, but I won't cook. And I felt like let me just make them playful, because maybe she'll laugh and then we'll loosen up and we'll get to know each other. Because they were just meant to disarm the both of us so that we can actually... Because marriage is a very serious thing. So I just wanted us to just laugh a bit and get comfortable with each other while at the altar, because we don't know each other. It was very scary. Yeah. So I just wanted to disarm the situation a bit.
As we wrap up the conversation to this point, right? Because I understand what you're saying. But then if I had to challenge you, I'd say you got into this with the hopes of finding your forever after, right? Yeah. So if you didn't have the fail safe of knowing that you could exit, you could turn around and run. And if you didn't have that option, if it really was an old school arranged marriage where you will marry this girl and you will make a life out of her, would that have changed how you approached even the commitment that you were making to her at the altar, how you worded it?
No, because the way I worded it also talks to who I am, because number one, she needs to know that I'm a Star Wars fan. If I were to choose between Star Trek and Star Wars, I'd choose Star Wars. And those vows were me. They talk to who I am.
Okay.
And changing them would have been me changing myself. And the nicest thing about marrying someone at first sight is that you have a clean slate. So you can just go there and present yourself as you are. And then the next person will either decide if they want you as you are or not. So it was the best place to be and the best place for me to be myself. And those vows are who I am.
Guys, we have to wrap it here for this afternoon, but thank you so much for joining us. And I'm glad you chose him, and I hope you continue to choose him, because he said something that tugged at the heartstrings in that first episode. So I hope you guys continue on this journey. We look forward to seeing whether or not this marriage makes a good go at it. That was, of course, the couple from Married at First Sight. We had Ditshwanelo Seturumane joining us, and of course, Khutso Mokoena as well. Happily married? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. Let's take a quick pause here as Ashraf comes through to tell us what's coming up today.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
eThekwini Municipality is excited to host the Resurgence Conference Durban 2024, an international investment conference themed Moving the Needle Towards Economic Emancipation. The conference will profile Durban as an investment city from the 17th till the 21st of July at Durban ICC. It features exhibitions, conference engagements led by global and local esteemed sectoral experts, and several empowerment opportunities. Also featuring the Resurgence Gospel Fest on 20 July, headlined by American gospel legends Shirley Caesar and Bishop Hezekiah Walker. Sharing the global stage with international acts are local gospel stars Dumi Mkokstad, Ayanda Ntanzi, Xoli Mwango, and Mngobi Nxumalo. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro. You are listening to The Full Circle.
Ashraf is in the building. How are you doing?
I'm pretty well, thank you.
Awesome
Hectic day,
stuff.
but pretty well indeed.
Listen, it's just one of those days. What's coming up today?
Well, we're going to pick up on that, the prisoner video, where that prisoner's enjoying life in prison. Like no rent, my child's getting all paid for, everything sorted, like this is my best life. So we'll talk about the implications of what was said. That comes up first up, right? I'll also chat in the That's My Point feature around just the legacy around Salman Murat's captaincy of the Springbok team, but what it means really in terms of community sport. And I think that's the big issue that we'll talk about there. There's an issue, in fact, we will chat another sportsman, Wimbledon champion, KG, you know her. Well, we'll talk to her around 10 to 6, looking forward to that. And there are many other issues. There's a plan of a new SOE in the water industry. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. We'll also talk to the SARS commissioner. If you have your SARS questions, you can certainly do that too. And ahead of tomorrow's opening of Parliament, we'll look at, ensuring that how do we develop a capable state for South Africa and looking forward to what may happen or may not happen tomorrow. All that on the National Pulse.
I mean, tomorrow all we get is pomp and ceremony, right? Yeah.
Well,
that's coming up on the National Pulse. Tomorrow is also International Nelson Mandela Day, by the way. I hope you got your 67 minutes of activity planned. Let's come back and wrap up the show.
Feel Good Breakfast Show. Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063-408-8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
Nelson Mandela once said,
It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it.
SAFM urges you to identify those in need around you and to do what you can to make a difference to them. Tata Mandela went further to say, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Wrapping up the show in our final moments with this conversation. So we know that we've had this pressing issue in South Africa, and it's been on the agenda for a while now, the issue around child-headed households. And these are children that are deprived of constitutional rights to family care, adequate shelter, social security, and just the basic necessities of a good, healthy family life. And our guest today, Dr. Nico Diago, recently obtained his doctorate in social work at the Stellenbosch University. And Dr. Nico heads up the men's intervention program at Community Cohesion in Hout Bay. And a lot of your research highlights the critical need for support and resources for these vulnerable children. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Let's talk a little bit perhaps about just, the research that you've undertaken around this very important conversation and issue, and some of the findings that, have landed up in your data reports.
Yeah, pretty much we focused on child-headed households, which we believe is an overlooked issue in South Africa. I mean, it's an important issue because it involves vulnerable children in general. And I mean, most of the findings, because this is a research that has been over for 5 years, master's and PhD. We first started by profiling their experiences, and then we found out that they lived alone without adult caregivers, without parental care, and that essentially they were also not receiving services from social workers. Then we went on to find that most of them tend to drop out of school, most of them tend to be exposed to child labor, and most of them tend to be abused, sexually exploited, and also tend to end up living on the street or being on the street in order to care for their family. We've also found out that most of them are quite in isolated areas, mainly in rural areas or in informal settlements, where it's difficult even for available services to enter in those areas.
And I mean, just looking at the list of the challenges, and it's not exclusive to just what you've mentioned, but the list of challenges that are faced by children in child-headed households also speaks to how this impacts them as well as their siblings on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. So, I mean, the header is a child under the age of 18, and then it's just because sometimes they have to live by themselves, or they also have to take care of their siblings. So, I mean, you have siblings who look up to someone who's a child more than themselves, and also they tend to be frustrated because it's difficult for a child to care for children. So you can imagine the dynamics between those kind of environments. I mean, it's frustrating, it's stressful, and it's difficult even for them to cope. So we call it like a rights violation process, because they are forced into adulthood, and essentially all their rights, if you can think of the new Section 28 of the Constitution, is that all their rights are essentially violated.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, Dr. Nico, we're getting into, or we already are, not that we're getting into, we already are in the 7th administration, right? And this speaks to, I think, conversations that need to be put on the table with a sense of urgency. Let's talk about that significant gap by way of social services for these children and these families, and the immediate steps that, you know, folks like yourself who are in advocacy around this would like to see being tabled and being prioritized for matter of implementation.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to sort of like break it down to at least how we got to where we are. So the problem is, we at first it was seen as a protective measure. It was seen as a family form. And I believe that was the problem, because at that point it was thought that they had adult caregivers, right? So they said, okay, if they have adult caregivers and they live alone with someone who's an adult, then they are a family form, or they are a protective measure. But what we found out is that they don't have adult caregivers, right? They don't have adult caregivers, they live alone, meaning that they are no longer a protective measure, they are no longer should be considered as a family form. And it also means that according to the Amendment Act, that is not applied accordingly, because it suggests that they should have an adult caregiver, but they don't have. And also, according to Section 152 of the Children's Act, it says essential services have to be provided to them. This includes early intervention services, behavior modification, prevention services, general assistance from social workers. But we also find out that that is not provided. So those are two main problems. And another thing is that with the challenges that child welfare organizations are exposed to, they are unable to render services to the children. Why? Because of staff shortage, transport challenges, limited funding. And I mean, the starting page, 252 page, we speak to the social workers in the Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga, in Limpopo, and they mentioned that as much as we'd like, we know that they are there, but as much as we'd like to help them, we have these challenges, which I've mentioned, which prevent us from sort of like addressing some of the challenges that the children are exposed to or rendering services. So where do we start? We start with the policy. We ensure that it's implemented accordingly. We ensure that we respond to the Amendment Act in Section 137. Ensure that we provide an adult caregiver for them. We ensure that all the services that they're supposed to acquire according to the Children's Act are actually provided. And we also ensure that we look at them as children in need of care and protection, because in the Children's Act, they say they may be in need of care and protection, still assuming that they have adult caregivers. But we point out that these children don't have adult caregivers. This is what we found from 2020 up until now. So they should be seen as children in need of care and protection. And that's why we say it's important within the 7th administration to look at them as a priority.
Absolutely. Let's also talk about the role of community. You know, you say it's often assumed that there will be somebody there or somebody is going to play that role of adult. But we've kind of normalized child-headed households as community, and very rarely do we step in with community-based interventions. So how do we begin to then address even our own social behavior and our own attitudes or lack thereof towards these child-headed households?
I think we pointed out in our master's year in 2020 that a child is raised by the village, right? That's how we believe, that's how we grow up, that's the value that we should have. But then over time we've lost that. Over time, as you mentioned, we've normalized child-headed households. And we actually provide, in the thesis, we actually provide different services that should be rendered. And we also speak about community awareness projects. We also speak about community intervention projects, whereby we want all of society to come together and care about the other family, care about your neighbor, try to find out what is happening. If you realize that you have children who live alone, you realize that a parent or an adult caregiver has passed away in the other family, why is it that you don't report the issue to social services? So this is not only a social worker issue or auxiliary workers issue or this issue, it's also a collective. What is it that you do when, for example, you see children partaking in child labor? What is it that you see when you see children being exploited? Do you report that? Because most of these children, most of the challenges that I just mentioned, these children are exposed to, because we believe that this is what we found, that most of them tend to be sexually exploited. Most of them tend to drop out of school. Most of them are involved in child labor. They tend to work in farms, and this we found out in Mpumalanga. So, but what do we do as community members? What do we do as a collective society when we see such? Do we report? Do we care about the issue? Or we just over time desensitize to the issue that is, or we just overlook it? No, it's part of life. It cannot be. As much as we care about the future of the country, we should not shy away from such issues. It's important that we come together and report when we see such, and ensure that they get the necessary assistance that they need.
Absolutely. Just in our final moments, I think also everything that you've just spoken of just also indicates the fragmented nature of the various departments that we have in office, right? Because if people worked in tandem, half of the challenges that are faced by child-headed households could be met by a collective of departmental units.
Yes. Definitely agree with you. And this also we point out in the thesis. We speak about integrated approach. So we wrote about it in the master, we also wrote about it in the PhD, that we need everyone to come together. So this involves Department of Education, this involves Department of Social Development, SARS. So we need almost everyone to come together and work together on the services that is actually provided, that we wrote about. Everyone has to intervene accordingly. For example, if we speak about their right to education being violated because some of them dropped out of school. So it's a question of what is it that the Department of Education can do. Do we involve social workers when you realize that some of the children actually don't have adult caregivers? When you speak about their right to social services being violated, what do you do as a social worker? Are we able to go into this community and investigate? And also not isolating some of the issues that child welfare organizations or organizations in general that are exposed to, such as shortage of staff, right? Shortage of resources. So what is then the responsibility of social development in that case? Okay, how do we step in and help the personnel that is available so that they can be able to deliver these services to the children? It's all a collective.
Absolutely. Dr. Nico, we have to leave it there for this afternoon, but thank you for highlighting this issue. That was Dr. Nico Diago, and of course he just obtained his doctorate in social work at Stellenbosch University. 3 o'clock on the dot. Madupi is bringing you the 3 o'clock news, and then of course Ashraf is coming through in a matter of moments. From myself and my team, inshallah, God willing, we do it again tomorrow.
Very much, Sister Bridge. Safe travels. The top stories at 3, a fatal hijacking incident in Cape Town, and water supply restored to parts of Tshwane. A very good afternoon. 4 people have been killed during an alleged hijack incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police say reports suggest that as the 3 suspects attempted to get away, they collided with an SUV and a truck. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg.
Mitchells Plain police registered 4 counts of culpable homicide following a fatal crash on Baden Powell Drive in which 4 adult males died. 3 suspects and the truck driver were declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel. The circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation. Anyone with any information about this incident is kindly requested to contact Crime Stop.
The DA in Gauteng says it agrees with the Cancer Alliance and Section 27 that money not used by Gauteng Health could lead to cancer patients losing their lives. The civil organizations have filed a High Court application citing the department's alleged failure to use the 784 million rand budgeted in 2023 to provide cancer patients with life-saving treatment. The DA's Jack Bloom says cancer patients urgently need treatment.
The DA supports the court action by the Cancer Alliance against the Gauteng Health Department to force them to provide urgent treatment to cancer sufferers who might otherwise die. This really reminds me of the Life is Set Imeni tragedy, where the department's negligence led to unnecessary deaths. And I really hope that the department reverses course and provides decent treatment for all cancer survivors very urgently.
COGTA Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa is visiting the Boston area in the KZN Midlands, where a fire in a plantation killed 6 firefighters. The blaze is one of several fires that claimed 14 lives in various parts of the province over the past week. It also destroyed hectares of land and killed livestock. Hlabisa will visit the families of the deceased firefighters today. Addressing the media, he said that officials are visiting other affected areas to assess the damage there.
Some of them are down on the ground as we are here in order to physically see the extent of damage. We have noted, Honorable Premier, that the preliminary assessment amounts to 90 million. The preliminary report gives us a clear indication of the extent of damage.
The city of Tshwane says water supply is being restored in some parts of Sunnyside, which experienced an interruption on Sunday after a pipe burst at Thabo Sihume Street next to the Gautrain Bridge. The city says water has been restored in areas along Stanza Bopape and Eastwood Streets. However, some areas still have low pressure. City spokesperson Lindela Mashigo says water tankers will continue to service the areas which are still experiencing supply interruptions.
It is encouraging that even though the restoration of water supply was expected to be later this week,